before I start my message, I just want to welcome the youth choir back officially. It's great to have you guys here. We have some new faces, so we look forward to hearing your first anthem this year. And we're thrilled how many of you got here after homecoming last night, so that's quite a testimony to their dedication. Or as Miss Vanessa said, they know the importance of World Communion Sunday, so we'll go with both of those. When I first read the gospel lesson for today, I thought Pastor Steve picked a good day to go away. My first inclination was to skip over it and change the text. Divorce and children, both can be very touchy topics, and I changed my mind. When we look at this text, the Pharisees came to Jesus to test him when they asked him about divorce. And it's clear they were up to something. They weren't seeking Jesus' wisdom, and they were looking for a way to trap him. What you don't read in our gospel lesson today is this. The text doesn't tell you that Herod Antipas was standing in the background, and at the time he was the Roman governor over Galilee. And the issue was he had divorced his wife, so he could marry Herodias, the wife of his brother, Herod Philip. That had caused such a scandal that when John the Baptist confronted Herod about it, John the Baptist was beheaded. So the trap is this. If Jesus says it's unlawful for a man to divorce his wife, he can join the ranks of John the Baptist. But on the other hand, if he says it's okay, he would contradict the teaching of the Torah and be subject to a charge of blasphemy. So in all fairness, Jesus was placed in a no-win situation. Instead of falling into that trap, Jesus answered in this way. What did Moses command you? What does the law say? And they answered that Moses allowed a certificate of divorce to be written. This refers back to Deuteronomy chapter 22, where it says, a man could divorce his wife if he found something objectionable about her. I want you to think about those words, something objectionable. That's a little subjective. Actually, it's a lot subjective. That could mean anything from adultery to a bad hair day. And in fact, William Barclay, when he studied the history, said, human nature being as it is, they tended to divorce for the latter reason. The result was that in Jesus' day, divorce for the most trivial reasons was very common. And so the Pharisee tried to trick him. He first responded by rubbing their nose in the law of Moses. Then he went back to Genesis and said, in the beginning, God made them male and female, and who God has joined together, let no man separate. Jesus points back to God's original intent, that marriage is a covenant relationship in which a man and a woman come together as one and live out their mutual love and devotion to one another. To reduce marriage to a matter of expediency, as the Jews did, where the wife was property, and the man could do whatever he pleased, was to distort the whole concept of what God intended it to be. And so it's easy to understand why he said what he did. Whoever divorces his wife and marries another commits adultery. That was in Jesus' time. What does it mean for us in 2018? We're in a very different society now. First, it means that the covenant of marriage is still valid. And today, as it was in the beginning of creation. In fact, yesterday, I had the privilege of officiating for a wedding, and we used those exact words from Genesis. Ideally, when a man and woman marry, they commit themselves to each other. They form an exclusive relationship of love and devotion. The two become one. But in today's high-paced and stress-filled world, it's harder to have a healthy marriage. There are so many reasons why marriages fail, and all of them in one way or another point to the reality of human nature. Whether we're immature, perhaps we're too self-centered, maybe we're too wrapped up in our work, maybe we're too undisciplined. This list is endless. We never fully live in the image of God. We always fall short. If you're not divorced, chances are you know and love someone who is, or could be one day. Divorce is not going away. When divorce occurs, we need, as Christians, to be there with a word of encouragement and support, not of criticism and shame. It's very common to hear when someone gets a divorce that they don't feel comfortable coming to church anymore. Church should be the first place they come. We've had because they didn't feel that they were loved. We need to love our church family no matter what. There's a shame in divorce, but we're here to pick up those people. It is a death. When my dad died, nobody walked up to me and went, "Aren't you glad he's gone? Isn't that just something you're done dealing with?" No. We don't say that when somebody dies. We're so sorry, what a loss. They were good people. We don't always say that when there's a divorce. We need to grieve with those around us who are going through this situation. Think about it like a child. Jesus goes from divorce to children in just a few sentences. And if we could look at life like a child, it would be really easy, perhaps. Sometimes we as adults fail to notice what is in plain sight. It's not that we don't care. It's that the things we do every day be so commonplace that we forget they're there. Children help us look with new eyes and new ears. Their experiences should enhance our faith. There was a story of two children, a set of twins. They were constantly getting in trouble. They wouldn't listen to the pastor in church. So the pastor thought, "I'll talk to them one at a time, see what happens." So he went and invited the first twin into his office and sat down, and they started talking. And he said, "Do you see God? Like, where do you see God?" The twin couldn't answer. After a while, when he got able to leave, he went home and looked at his brother and said, "We are in big trouble. They can't find God in church, and they think we stole him." Very simply, through the eyes of a child. Thinking about children. Now, there are some children here, so take this very graciously, my friends. Sometimes we can look at them. They can be a little painful at times. They're a lot of work. They leave fingerprints and sodas and crumbs everywhere. You can check our youth room out if you don't believe me. Sometimes they're loud and noisy. But all in all, they also can be angelic and reverent if you're here on Christmas Eve and you watch them. If you want to be the part of the kingdom of God, you need to be like a little child. Not just a child, but a little child. On a number of occasions, and just last week, Jesus talked about being first. Can you remember your holidays as a child? I bet you didn't cook one meal. I bet you didn't wrap one present. I bet you didn't organize the family gatherings. You just went and had an awesome experience. That's what being like a child is. And entering the kingdom of God means to be like that. We need to rely on God as children rely on their parents. The only way we can enter is to be dependent on Jesus. In John 14:6 it says, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." We can't earn our place in God's kingdom. We can't push our way in. And we don't have any right to be there because of our family name or the positions we hold. We simply need to be like little children and rely on Jesus to enter God's kingdom and to be a part of it. Brennan Manning, an author and a priest, says it like this: "The gospel declares that no matter how dutiful or prayerful we are, we can't save ourselves. But when we acknowledge that we are paupers at the door of God's mercy, then God can make something beautiful out of each of us." Often when it comes to our relationship with God, we want to be more than little children. We'd like to be a teenager or an adult in our relationship. Sometimes we become less trusting. We strive to prove ourselves to God. We look for more attractive things to satisfy, and rules dictate how we relate. We get disappointed because God doesn't respond to our hard work in the ways we want. And so rather than being dependent on Jesus, we rely on ourselves to earn God's favor. And Jesus reminds us that keeps us from entering his kingdom. We can learn from our children. Jesus said that the kingdom of God belongs to such as these. God doesn't want us to be children-minded, but be like them. It's not the age, but the attitude he is talking about. Children remind us of what childlike faith is. Our children in Sunday school are studying about Adam and Eve. One of them wants to know, they took that rib. Does every man have one less rib? That's a question the Sunday school teachers have to answer. They are honest. They ask questions. We can learn from them. Max Ducato was walking with his daughter, and he asked if she knew where she was going, and she said, "Nope." And he said, "Well, aren't you scared?" And she said, "Of course not. You're with me." Children remind us of what it is to look at the world with wide-eyed wonder. They remind us who we used to be before we got beat up by the world. I love working with kids. I work with them in school and I work with them here. They are so open and honest. A few weeks ago, my grandchildren were in my car, and my grandson lives in Virginia. My granddaughters live in North Carolina, and they were having a conversation. And Jackson said, I got a new house. And my oldest granddaughter said, well, who lives with you in your house? And he goes, Mommy and me. And my other granddaughter said, well, where does your daddy live? And very innocently, my grandson went, with you. And they went, oh. There was no judgment. It wasn't, you get more time than I do. It was, this is our daddy, and this is our life. Many years ago, Robert Fulghum wrote a book. All I really need to know I learned in kindergarten. I want you to listen to what he had to say and relate it to where you are in your world. He said, share everything. Play fair. Don't hit people. Put things back where you found them. Clean up your own mess. Don't take things that aren't yours. Say you're sorry when you hurt somebody. Warm cookies and cold milk are good for you. Take a nap every afternoon. And when you go into the world, watch out for traffic, hold hands, and stick together. Be aware of wonder. And remember the little seed in the styrofoam cup you used to plant? The roots go down and the plants go up, and we don't know why. Goldfish and hamsters, and even that little seed in the cup are going to die, and so do we. Take these lessons and learn to love like children love. How are you in your relationship with God today? Are you depending on Him? Are you allowing Him to love and bless you? I hope you are. As a church, we're going back to the basics, and we need to be like children and show our love to each other in all fairness. Not that one of you know what the other one is going through this week. But taking a loving relationship like a child can be so helpful as we continue to build our relationships. Amen. If you would please stand.